This is footage of a pro League of Legends match being win traded live in return for an undisclosed amount of money. Meanwhile, halfway across the world in the Oceanic League, a similar situation is taking place.
Oh, look at Chen Xuan falling on down. He's barely hung on for dear life. There's a Summoner Hill comes out from his AD carry, but the sniper, it's there! He goes back in with the shield on himself, but the first blood going against him is being picked up by Nebula.
Esports is currently undergoing a bit of a crisis as the industry appears to be crumbling around itself.
More than ever, people are asking, what the hell is going on with TSM?
Honestly, I fucking hate TSM, mostly because of Andy.
What was once a dream career path for many young players has become filled with corporate greed and corruption, and what's more, it goes deeper than you could ever imagine. So, let me explain. Let me introduce you to the LDL. This is the secondary league in China, and it's where all the upcoming talent in the country will go to try and find recognition and a shot at the big leagues. In a way, it could be compared to the North American Challengers League or the LCK Challengers League, where academy teams are created in an effort to hone new talent. The two players who were allegedly caught up with match fixing were imported from China, where the win trading epidemic, at least in pro play, is a lot more rampant. In the last 3 years alone, there's been countless incidents coming out of just the LDL. In 2021, a huge investigation took place into the LDL, resulting in 35 players, coaches, and other members of staff receiving bans for any amount of time, ranging from a few months to a permanent suspension. This all came to light thanks to a player who came over from China and is currently playing in the LEC, Bo.
Guys is already down, traded for Rux. Razork throws out the ulti, keeps himself alive, looking for the kill. Humanoid unleashes the spirit but won't find the kill. Razork's not doing it. They chase to fall. Fnatic with 2 splits, but can they close it out? Razork gets taken out. Bo gets himself 1. Baron is secured though. Keep that in mind as Reckless drops 2. Vitality find themselves 4 kills.
After joining a stacked FPX roster alongside 4 former world champions Nuggery, Duanbe, LWX, and Crisp, a bombshell would be dropped, leading to the superstar jungler being suspended. Recently, we've paid attention to the public opinions on the internet involving player FPX Bo. Bo also took the initiative to report to the club the inappropriate competitive behaviour that he was coerced into participating during the 2020 LDL competition. Rumours would then emerge that Bo was blackmailed into engaging in match fixing as a younger rookie by bookmakers back when he was playing in the LDL. After he'd gotten a spot in the LPL and on one of the best looking teams no less, these same bookmakers returned to him, threatening to expose him if he didn't engage in the same behaviour and fix matches yet again.
And now stuns across the team, FPX underneath the tower, but the tower shots are coming on through. They've gone too deep for this one. Rookie's arriving and he wants to clean this one up. Featherstorm though dodges the stun, triple for Bo as they look for more under the tower, and that's a quadra for the Viking.
Bo refused and turned himself into Riot, aiding the investigation and kicking off the huge ban waves to come in subsequent years. Because of his cooperation, he only received a 4-month suspension. The league's zero-tolerance policy against match fixing has become a tool that the bookmakers are using to control young LDL players. Bookmakers and betting websites are based outside of China. It's very hard for LPL to do anything about it. In 2022, another 30 bans were handed out to players after a match between Team Orange and 12 in the LDL was discovered to have been fixed. With a 12 kill lead and almost a 15,000 gold advantage, the game should have, in theory, been unlosable for the blue side. After taking a look at this team fight, which is essentially where the suspicions started arising, you'll notice countless indicators that something weird is going on. Players dying without using abilities, or just walking around in the fight not using any abilities at all. This match, until now, has only been available on Bilibili, which is essentially the Chinese version of YouTube. All of the aforementioned behaviour prompted an investigation into the game, which subsequently revealed numerous players and members of management engaging in improper behaviour and illegal betting on League of Legends games. As a result, both of these teams were disqualified and permanently banned from participating in any more events. Individual members of the team, including players, coaches, and managers, receive various penalties, varying once again between lifetime bans and temporary suspensions. This also prompted a surprise investigation into the remaining 22 teams of the LDL, where another large portion of players received suspensions. 2023 rolled along, and of course a similar situation took place. Once again, the league would be hit with a surprise investigation, although this year only 3 bans would be handed out. The looming threat of permanent suspensions, alongside a much more militant approach from the league's management team, seemed to be yielding positive results. This could be part of the reason why recently the issue's been rapidly spreading to other regions, which we'll get into shortly. It can be hard to say how much a player stands to earn from intentionally throwing a match, but for reference we can take a look at StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 was at one point the biggest esport in the world. The game was hugely popular in South Korea, but also since the matches are one-on-one, it was extremely susceptible to match fixing. One of the most well documented cases of this comes from a player named Yoda, who in 2015 received a permanent ban from the game after being caught throwing for money. Yoda is charged with manipulating the results of 4 matches he played in. While Yoda received a total of 30 million Korean won for intentionally losing 2 matches, he was also blackmailed into fixing 2 other matches with no compensation. 30 million Korean won equated to approximately $22,500 US back when this happened. But after adjusting for inflation over the last 10 years, it now comes out to almost $27,000 US. Yes, honestly, I can't believe it either. I just did math in a video. Maybe I should just go back to reading out patch notes, I don't know. When you take this number and combine it with the increased popularity of esports and esports betting over the past decade, it would be fair to assume that this number has increased significantly.
Versus World Champion Yoda!
The clip you saw at the start of the video is from a team called Iron Wolves. They play in the Ultraliga, which is a part of the European, Middle East, and African circuit, more commonly referred to as the EMEA. Similar to most pro League of Legends games, viewers were able to place bets before the match started. This, however, is where the suspicious activity kicks off.
Nie no, odkleiło mnie już, kompletnie. Ajajaj.
The odds for this match the day before it happened were 1.2 for Iron Wolves and 3.2 for Esker. This means that if you bet $100 on Iron Wolves and they won the game, you would receive 120 as your winnings. Similarly, if you bet that $100 on Esker and they won, you'd receive $320 as your winnings. This is set up in a way so that it balances based on how much money is bet on each team. If more money is placed on Iron Wolves, the odds for them go down, and vice versa. Fast forward to 1 hour before the match started, and the odds for Iron Wolves to win have skyrocketed to about 1.8. For the odds to shift this much so closely to the start of the game, that means that someone or a group of people had to have dropped a big amount of money on the underdog team, Esker, to win.
Oj. No na całe szczęście mam giełkę kwiczony, żeby było zabawniej. Ależ bomba od Eski!
So let's examine the in-game evidence. Keep in mind that the 2 players accused here are Lee Sin and Jace. Jace walks down to seemingly start soloing Elder Dragon.
Czas się tak naprawdę ciągnie i to jest naprawdę problematyczna sytuacja.
As his team starts approaching, he randomly drops the aggro to fully reset it despite being nowhere close to death.
Chciałbym powiedzieć, że przyjdzie tu zaraz Mazi,
Albo Buffy.
użyje 2 teleportów.
In this next clip, you can see Odin on Jace intentionally leaving the inhibitor at 1 HP.
To nawet może być za niedługo koniec rozgrywki. Nie ma dostępnych paczek dla Korkiego. Jest oczywiście dalej przy życiu Jiller, jak również Desoriny, ale to jest naprawdę duża dawka obrażeń, które Irons będzie mogła sadzić. Zobacz, oni to w tym momencie mogą za niedługo skończyć. Chociaż chwila.
No właśnie, bez takich szerok... Jak nie! On chciał steleportować przez ten portal!
Then, he decides to flash back in and still not hit the inhibitor, choosing death instead. Next up, and one of the most suspicious clips, Lee Sin randomly decides to go into a 1v3 fight, Wing in, kicking Corki, and then flashing out.
Nie, to jest symulacja. Ja jestem częścią prawy. To jest jakiś zakrojony na szeroką skalę ziajcik. Chociaż cleanbaitował! Dobra, tylko że masz LDDK oczywiście cały czas.
This clip is probably the most damning piece of evidence. Try and count how many abilities Jace uses in this fight.
To zapraszam do lasu. Czy był tam teoretycznie, ale teraz zobaczmy. Tylko 3 zawodników Eski stara się w tym momencie walczyć, ale po co? Przecież są 3 na 4! Nie powinni podejmować tej walki!
Nie powinno mieć nawet jej ku temu miejsca!
Bo jest wściekły w tym momencie! Ziomale mu utrudniają wygrywanie meczu!
Perhaps the most vindicating part of all of this though is that Iron Wolves actually ended up winning this game thanks to an insane performance from the 3 other members.
Mimo to UFO odleci siną w dal, zupełnie w inne obszary kosmosu. Heszero ma dość! Dajcie mi skończyć! Wypuśćcie mnie! Oddajcie mi tę grę! Zasłużyłem! GGWP! Po 50 minutach Iron Walls!
All of these clips, combined with the mysterious shifting of the betting odds before the game, make for a pretty convincing case for match fixing. However, no punishment came from this despite an official investigation from Riot. Quote, the investigation conducted by Riot Games regarding 2 Iron Wolves players, Wen Kailun Zheng and Shui Odin Wang, did not result in sufficient evidence that would justify further disciplinary proceedings. Frenzy will continue to monitor the competition at all times and, should a similar situation arise in the future, take necessary steps to ensure the integrity of the league. But the suspicious activity doesn't stop there. Neither Odin nor Kailun have any competitive experience even in the LDL. They're both completely fresh players imported from China and have gone straight into a high-level European league where match fixing is a lot less common and therefore easier to get away with. This post details a player in a similar situation, Warrior. Warrior is a Chinese player who's also recently joined a European team. Quote, they haven't participated in any official tournaments before they joined Iron Wolves. Nobody knew about them, they didn't look for the team on Twitter, they seemingly appeared out of thin air. Doesn't it seem strange to anyone? You can compare to how I joined a European team. I reached 1000 LP in the EU West server and met a lot of pro players that helped me out. Once again though, that's not all. In these DMs with a player from Iron Wolves, it's stated that the team has a sponsor from China and that's where the connection comes from. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility for these players to have been scouted while in China and brought over for less than savoury purposes. Of course, however, for the most part, these are just allegations and theories. These extra pieces of evidence, when viewed individually, are rather unremarkable, and it's only when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture that the odds of all of these events happening by chance at the same time are extremely low. Perhaps all of this being so disconnected, alongside events like this for the most part being just unprecedented in Riot Europe, is why there wasn't sufficient evidence to ban players or teams after all of this came to light. There is one thing for certain though, if there was a large sum of money dropped on a bet by an individual with knowledge of the match fixing, they lost a hefty sum of money when Iron Wolves managed to still win the game. It'll be interesting to see whether they try to make it back in future matches, despite the inevitable increased scrutiny of the team's games. On these betting sites, you're not confined to only placing bets on the winner of a match. Much like in traditional sports, you can place side bets, such as how long the game's going to go for, or which team's going to get first blood.
Oh, Faker has gone in. Humanoid in trouble. He's walking towards the wrong way. The flash didn't work. Humanoid wanted to outplay. Faker's still chasing. He goes down. Faker! He gets first blood, but he dies doing it.
Betting on first blood specifically is a lot safer than betting on the outcome of a game, since you can pretty reliably give away one death without seeming too suspicious, or at least you would think so.
Very easily, I think he's going to pick up like the K-Nex rocket, as we're seeing an all-in bot lane.
Yeah, we certainly are. Look at Chen Xuan falling on down. He's barely hung on for dear life. There's a Summoner Hill comes out from his AD carry, but the sniper, it's there! He goes back in with the shield on himself, and the first blood going against him is being picked up by Nebula.
This clip is from the Oceanic Pro League, the LCO. The Oceanic server in general is extremely rampant with match fixing and win trading, even in solo queue. It's a pretty easy target due to how tiny the player base is, which means intentionally queuing into someone's game is a lot easier, with queue times in high elo regularly reaching upwards of 30 minutes. The player in this clip though, Chen Xuan, has been the target of win trading accusations for a while.
I queue up at 12 a.m. I get placed with someone named Chen Xuan, distance, and a barcode name. And then I have on my team Har Yao Yi Bing Shui and Tija Urkwai La on fucking Rel and Fiddlesticks. You know what they do? They win trade each other openly and they type 50 slurs a second.
Despite all this, and possibly due to how small the region is and how understaffed or maybe even undertrained Riot's investigation team is, it's rare for suspensions to ever come from situations like this. Until now, I kid you not, honestly this couldn't have been scripted if I tried. The very morning after I recorded this video, the LCO released a competitive update regarding Chen Xuan. After preliminary investigations, we have found sufficient information to indicate that there's been a suspected breach of competitive integrity involving Direwolves' Chen Xuan. He will be provisionally suspended from all Riot Games esports, including official and third-party tournaments until further notice with immediate effect. But somehow the plot thickens even more. This tweet from Rusty, who's a former player and coach turned caster, says, "It's a shame to see the obvious has been proven right, but it's very validating to see it proven right. Not just for the Direwolves players who want to win their games, but through his team history back to 2019, where he did it to my team as well." It could be argued that a large reason players even partake in match fixing is due to how little they're paid for their efforts. But hey, it's a video game and at least at the end of the day, they're getting paid for it, right? Oh wait, no they're not.
On their debut, peace there if you missed us, because here we are.
In 2023, a team in the LCO named Peace were hit with a competitive ruling and removed from the league, quote, due to their inability to field an eligible roster and payment delays to team members. Because of this, Riot made the decision to sell Peace's spot in the LCO, and these funds would then go towards paying off any players who were still owed their salaries. This led to the LCO only having 7 teams for the remainder of the first split. However, by the time Split 2 came around, a new team was ready to take their spot.
Up against the newcomers in Vertex, and here's a fun fact for you, there's first blood.
History being made here.
Vertex took over the remaining spot in the LCO and went on to have a pretty alright season, finishing in 6th place overall. Now the split ended in the end of July, but recently it was revealed that some players and staff were still waiting for their payments from the org. All of this has been well documented in this article on .esports because the original tweet is now gone for reasons that we'll get into shortly. Styled, who headed up the coaching staff of Vertex, said the amount still owed was around $15,000 AUD, while Medica added that he's owed between $2,000 and $3,500. Hysterix said he'd reached out to the LCO, but was told since the org's not in the league anymore, there's not much they can do. Despite this limitation though, the LCO did still try to get in contact with Vertex, but to no avail. All of this led to the impacted players and staff feeling the need to post this on Twitter to get any response. Because after all, the possibility of legal action is nothing compared to being bullied online. The org owner responded soon after, stating that all of the allegations were false and that the players always had an open line and were never ghosted. This is an interesting response though, given that the initial tweet and all of the tweets afterwards seem to show the exact opposite. Hopefully everyone received what they were owed, even though at this point it's still way overdue. But of course, that's not the end of it. Oceanic organizations specifically have had a history of not paying their staff and players properly. Team Immunity received a 2-year ban in 2015 for, quote, not paying minimum match payments to their players. In 2017, Tainted Minds received a competitive ruling for, quote, not making payments in the time frame required within the league's rules and not providing hardware as specified within contracts with the team's manager and coach. As a result, they copped a $7,000 fine and a 6-month probation period. Also, in this article, one of the main methods of investigation was examining Skype messages, which I just thought was a funny trip down memory lane. Oh, Skype, I miss you. But at least this was a problem confined to the isolated continents of Australia and New Zealand. Riot Games bans Galatasaray Esports from League of Legends competition for failing to pay players. Galaxy Racer NA employees are owed 2 months of back pay. Blind hasn't paid our salaries and travelling expenses, alleges ex-Blind Esports cock manager. Some of these aren't even organisations that have been a part of League before, and this was kind of intentional. I needed to segue into my next point, and the org I'm about to mention isn't a part of League either. Although they were at one point, so it didn't really work as intended, so I think at this point I'm just going to have to add a transition.
Finding a good engagement here, the Rune Prison goes down, he's going to break it with that crowd control reduction.
It's going to be the pentakill! Beautiful play, well settled, stepping up.
TSM played an integral part in building the North American League of Legends scene. As one of the region's first dynasty teams, they really helped cultivate some of the biggest names in the early stages of the game, such as Dyrus, The Odd One, Bjergsen, Chaox, Xpecial, and later on even picking up Doublelift. Reginald, the team's mid laner in the early days, would then go on to turn the team into a proper organisation, with him as the owner/CEO. They truly were a pillar in the League of Legends community, which is why their downfall came as such a shock.
TSM has 9 employees left.
Honestly, I fucking hate TSM mostly because of Andy.
Reginald, aka Andy Din, received a competitive ruling back in 2022 for, quote, a pattern and practice of disparaging and bullying behaviour exhibited towards TSM players and staff members. This came as a bit of a shock to most people. The thought that the owner of such a well-respected org could harass their own staff so much that they receive a $75,000 fine from the LCS was a little bit crazy. But this was similar to behaviour that he'd exhibited as early as 10 years ago.
And you're arguing with me.
Alright, my bad.
No, for no reason, you're arguing with me and arguing with me. It's f***ing annoying. And you've always been doing this, and it's really getting annoying.
Okay.
And lately you've been doing it, it's so f***ing annoying. Because you're only arguing with me to argue with me.
Not really.
Even when you can't even prove a point.
What the fuck?
Oh my god.
Fuck you, turn off the guy reporter.
Dude, shut the fuck up, dude.
That's not true, dude.
Shut up.
What the fuck's wrong with you, guys? Wait, why did you tell us to shut up?
Huh?
Why did you tell us to shut up?
You're so loud.
This is like everyone's area. Why don't you shut up? You're fucking rude as fuck, dude.
What the fuck?
Why are you being so fucking rude?
I'm playing a game, dude. Leave me
Okay,
alone.
why the fuck are you being so rude then?
Leave me
that
alone.
That does not justify you being rude.
Alright, I'm sorry for being rude then.
Now, at this point, Darius has already apologised and that should be the end of it, but Reginald keeps badgering him over and over, trying to provoke a reaction.
Stop being a little fucking brat.
You're still fucking going
Stop
on
being a
about
little fucking
that.
brat.
I said fucking sorry!
Talk to the desk one more time. I said sorry! How hard is it to fucking accept sorry? You're a little fucking brat. I don't need to fucking deal with this shit.
I don't need to deal with it either.
Then get the fuck out of here.
Playing a game.
Okay, and we're not even talking to you. Why are you being a little bitch about it?
By now, more than a minute and a half of silence has passed. However, Reginald feels the need to keep the argument going even more. You can hear in this next part that Darius can even notice his mistakes and apologise for them, but this doesn't seem to be the case for Reginald.
You're like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Whatever, dude.
What do you mean whatever?
Whatever.
No, what do you mean whatever?
I'm playing a game.
Okay, you're playing a game. You can tell us to quiet down. Why are you being so fucking rude?
Because I'm playing solo queue.
Okay, because it's solo queue.
And I said sorry, and you think it's because after you say sorry, you can constantly fucking rant on me? You always do that.
It's the way you go
You
about it.
always do that.
Do what?
And yes, it's bad of me to fucking rage from solo queue. But every time I say sorry, you always give me extra shit for it. All the fucking time.
It's your tone of saying sorry. It's the way you work. It's your tone. It's so fucking rude after you say sorry. You don't even mean it based on your tone.
You constantly fucking harp on people all the fucking time.
Because you guys don't
You do it to special, you do it to fucking me. I'm stressed out, I'm playing solo queue so I can warm up for a scrim so I can fucking shit on C9 scrims.
So you're gonna be rude.
No.
No, I argue with special because you argue with me when I'm right.
In his defense, at the time he was only 21 years old, but the more recent competitive ruling really shows that even given the chance of time, he hasn't matured and grown out of it. Instead, it's continued to the point where it seems like TSM is on the brink of collapse entirely. On the anniversary of my 5th year working at TSM, they told me I'm no longer employed. I'm currently in shock and am working on processing it. As the team around me was cut and I inherited more responsibilities, and with only 9 people left working on TSM, I didn't expect to be next, but here I am. In 2020, TSM released a statement saying that they'd grown to approximately 110 employees. They'd gotten so big that they needed to upgrade their offices. 110 employees is quite a far cry from the 8 that they allegedly have now only 4 years later. All of this could have been attributed to the collapse of FTX, which was their main sponsor. Although after this happened, TSM's official stance and statement was that they're still stable and profitable, and they forecast this to be the case for years to come. However, given recent events, either this is not the case, or TSM is just laying off employees en masse for no good reason. It's not just an issue with TSM though. Esports organisations across the globe are facing one of the worst economic crises since their inception. This begs the question, is esports just unsustainable? If we take a look at the financials for Sentinels, who are, in their own words, a modern face of North American esports, and the fastest growing Valorant team, it doesn't look good. At all. This is from a crowdfunding website called Start Engine. However, because of this, you and I can freely see that last year they lost $8 million. Sentinels ended up raising $194,000 from this endeavor, so there is still some interest from investors to get into esports. The problem seems to be, at this point though, is that teams are surviving purely off of investors. The few esports organizations that are turning a profit aren't doing it from esports. It's from other ventures such as selling merch or gaining sponsors, so long as those sponsors aren't FTX. But as we've seen over the last couple of years, this is unsustainable. And then, when the organizations inevitably go bankrupt, it's the players and employees who are left stranded. If you enjoy these types of videos, then do feel free to check out the Patreon. Over there you can get early access, ad-free viewing, sneak peeks, voting on future videos, and much more. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.